Serious, what is the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen a man do to defend their masculinity? My dad will not tolerate being served food that was set to look pretty. Once he ordered a dish with coconut shrimp, and when it came out its presentation looked very cute and my dad immediately recoiled in disgust and said, "This isn't what I ordered. Take it back." We were all confused because he had in fact ordered it and the waitress was just beside herself. My dad then said, "It's too feminine." The waitress ended up taking the plate back and they rearranged the shrimp as to not offend my dad as if he were a picky 2-year-old. If your general masculinity recoils coming into contact with anything remotely feminine, it ain't nearly as tough as you think it is. I used to work at a bakery where each clerk had to bring their own pens to have customers sign receipts with, if they paid with a card. I had a pink pen with a little duck on top and one day a customer refused to sign with it. He got really mad that I didn't have another pen and walked out to his car to find a pen that wasn't girly. I had a pink sequiny pink I used when I used to do sporting goods. Ink was blue but it kept the macho men from stealing my pen when they got their hunting fishing license. I had a guy tell me I'm the man. I walk ahead while we were in my part of the city where clearly I was the one who knew the way. It ended up with me turning the right way and then him jumping in front of me and walking ahead. It was kinda goofy but I could tell that at the core he was serious. A guy tried to emasculate me in my weightlifting class, the problem being he had never lifted in his life. It should be noted that this guy was a one-upper to a T. If anyone had a talent or had anything remotely interesting to say, he was there to outdo them. I was showing him how to do bench press and I was doing 155, which is my maximum. Not a lot of weight, but again, it's a lot when you've never lifted. He proceeded to attempt the weight I was doing while I was at the water fountain. Unfortunately I couldn't get there before he gave himself a hairline fracture in his sternum. I would have felt worse for him if he wasn't such a dickhead. Stepbrother is the type of guy that refuses to hold his girlfriend's purse. Once at a small family dinner she went to the bathroom. After a minute she must have texted him and he goes to check on her. They quietly argued a little and were clearly mad but trying to hide it the whole night after. Turns out she needed a tampon from her purse and he wouldn't even bring the purse to her. She had to text my sister to bring it to her. Friend of mine had a wardrobe malfunction and flashed her crotch accidentally. A tool bag at the bar pointed it out by loudly yelling, "I saw your vag, I saw your vag." Her boyfriend responded by flipping out and yelling at her about how dare she show some other bloke her vag. She had to placate him that it was still his vag. Buttholes all around. It was raining and I offered a guy my umbrella and he refused, saying they were just for women. I didn't even know that was a thing. Next $1 million idea, the umbrella. Back in middle school, when Uggs were still in fashion, I had a pair of Uggs, fake Uggs, that I kept things in that I didn't want people to see. My phone, tampons, money, etc. Well, one day Aunt Flo comes along and I attempt to sneakily put a tampon in my boot to go to the bathroom. I was still self-conscious at the time about periods. I raise my hand, get up and try to walk to the door, trip and my boot falls off and my tampon rolls to this dude. He picks it up, not realizing what it is. When he realizes, he screams like a girl and the people around start giggling as he throws it in the air. Well, he didn't like being laughed at, so to redeem himself, he grabs the tampon and starts gnawing on it with his teeth, full on dog attack style. Then he spits it out and to the floor. I was not happy and people just kinda looked around awkwardly and went back to work. Yeah, nothing says manly like publicly trying to eat a tampon. 2 male classmates and I were on a field trip and got caught in the rain. I had a raincoat, and guy 1 had an umbrella. He offered to share it with the guy 2, who had no rain gear. Guy 2 insisted it was gay to share an umbrella with another man. He would only use the umbrella if he carried it, while I walked under it with him and guy 1 borrowed my raincoat. This didn't fly because A, I wasn't about to give up my raincoat for the paltry protection lent by huddling under an umbrella, and B, guy 1 would not have fit my raincoat, so guy 2 got soaked. Man, I know a guy who's completely given up on straight pee solely because he can see the man's penis. I know this because he's so incredibly vocal about watching exclusively lesbian piece on dildos or anything remotely phallic and that it's gay to do otherwise. Man, he's going to be so pee off when he realizes that he has a dong. A female friend of mine brought a Tinder boy on a double date with me and my girlfriend. After the movies we took a dip in friend's pool and somehow we started this quasi sword fight game with the pool noodles. This freaking kid proceeded to whack me with all his strength in an attempt to impress my friend. Like I could see the strain in his face. Also, afterwards we were watching a movie and I fell asleep. Tinder boy proceeded to aggressively attempt to feel up friend and suck on her shoulder. There was not a second date. I work with an insane over-the-top alpha ego frick boy. We all go out for drinks one night and he literally tells me I should go fight a random stranger in the bar because we have a similar haircut. Obviously I think he's joking cause that's fricking ridiculous. But no, he's dead serious and goes on to call me fricking P and says how soft I am. Goes on to tell me about all the bar fights he has been in. Needless to say, we don't invite him for drinks anymore. I'm sorry but I have to laugh. I'm a woman, and fighting someone because they have the same haircut sounds like something stereotypical women do in hack movies. Some years back I had a guy block me on FB and stop talking to me at work because I posted a pic of me in makeup that my daughter did and then a second pic of me in a sarong with same makeup. She was 10 and wanted a model to work on. It was hilarious fun and it will be a long-lived great memory of me and my little girl having a good laugh. Apparently he was talking behind my back about me being gay and I was teaching my daughter the wrong things about what being a man meant and what girls should expect. The other blokes are as crazy as me and didn't think much of him. He even went as far as telling this so he did not think I was the right person to be working and sleeping at the station with other men. I'm a firefighter. This is a guy who was divorced twice and estranged from his kids. Has at least one violence order against him that I've since learned about. He was a crap worker and only lasted 8 months. I've seen examples like this, like being too good of a parent is womanly. My best friend unexpectedly had a very heavy period hit her out of nowhere while at work. She bled noticeably through her pants. She asked her boyfriend to drive to the store and pick up some tampons and a change of pants. He showed up later with some pants and no tampons. He didn't want to be seen buying them. He was 24. At a school dance it was cheaper to get in if you were a couple. I can't remember exactly how much, it was probably 10 or 20 bucks cheaper. The teacher at the door was cool, so even if you came with your group of guy friends he would just pair you off and charge you the cheaper price. These two jock type guys refused to be paired together and demanded they each pay a separate entrance fee. My brother won't eat foods that resemble semen. No mayonnaise, no yogurt or sour cream, nothing. He won't even eat the melted frosting on a Cinnabon. Masculinity so fragile. Bro missing out on that Cinnabon though. My husband has long hair and usually has a few hair ties on his wrist because of it. One of the guys I used to work with also has long hair and couldn't find a suitable replacements for the rubber band he'd lost. My husband upon noticing offered him his last hair tie that just so happened to be pink. And this dude went to a dang tirade saying how he wasn't some F and wasn't going to wear it. Then went through the rest of the day in 102 degrees heat, soaked with sweat and his hair just getting all stuck to his face and crap. This same dude also refused to ever put on sunscreen or wear gloves even though we worked outside with tools pretty much every dang day. So he'd constantly be sunburned and peeling and always had these huge painful looking blisters on his hands. Nothing says manliness like skin cancer. I once had a housemate who was a male nurse. Not a nurse, a male nurse. If you forgot the male, you were always corrected. Went on a date with a cop. He paid for dinner and we went for coffee. I quickly paid for the drinks and his attitude turned sour after that. He thought that by me paying, it made him less of a man. It was just a nice gesture. He's still single. I've actually gotten into a real argument on a date because he wouldn't let me pay for anything. Like, not even a okay you get it this time I'll get it next time thing. He literally was offended that there was going to be any point in our dating history where I paid. Our dating history ended that evening. When I was a teenager, I know shotgunned a whole bottle of gin. People do this with beer. I guess he thought it would be cool with hard liquor. I guess the big issue is that you don't feel anything while you are downing it. He collapsed moments after finishing. He was in the emergency room within the hour after passing out and being unrousable. Was giving out samples of yogurt at the grocery store. Offer a man some. Looks in disgust woman food. He was a grown man probably in his late 30s, early 40s. What the frick is woman food? I have a cousin that'll only eat meat and as little of non-meat foods as possible. He sees meat as being very manly and salad and stuff as being feminine. For example, he'll eat a bacon burger and only tolerates a bun because it makes holding it easier. He'll have bacon for breakfast, a burger for lunch, and steak or fish for dinner. And surprisingly he's had 3 heart attacks and severe atherosclerosis. So being manly seems to be mainly about dying in his 50s to heart disease. Hope he thinks gout is manly. I bought some perfume once but accidentally got the poor home version. So, I gave it to my dad. He refused to use it because it was for poofs. I was at the pub with my sisters and 3 of their male friends. At the time I was fat, very fat, and a bit socially awkward. Male friend 1 started being a bit of a douche, deliberately trying to make me uncomfortable. Eventually he claimed that he was a total fanny magnet and that chicks couldn't resist him, then turned to me and said, "You'd sleep with me, wouldn't you?" I looked him up and down and said, "That depends. Are you rich? If not, no thanks." His friends howled with laughter and he spluttered angrily. He then picked up his full pint and dumped it on me. His friends picked him up under his arms and escorted him out, by which I mean they flung him down 2 steps into the street and ordered him to go home. They apologized a lot. 1 took me home to change and we all had a perfectly nice night out. Well, at least there were at least a couple of decent people there. Frick that first dude though. Showed up with my friend to a barn party and when her ex-boyfriend noticed she was there he made sure she was watching and then proceeded to chug the rest of a huge frickin' jug of peppermint schnapps he had been holding. This wasn't a handle either, it was like milk gallon sized. But peppermint schnapps? Why? We're in a barn, everyone else just had beer, so I don't even know where he got it. Like, it's not the manliest of drinks, but he committed and he finished it. Honestly, thinking back I actually was sort of impressed, so I guess mission accomplished on his part. A friend of mine once refused to shower for over a week because his mother had bought the lemon scented shower gel rather than the manly mint one he was used to. His defense, "Even if I haven't showered at least I still smell like a bloke." Suffice to say we didn't hang around him until he got his minty shower. A man I was hooking up with wouldn't wear my pink hair tie to hold his dreads back during sex. In the dark, with just me and him in the room. Understandable. He wouldn't want anyone to think he was gay while he was actively having intercourse with a woman. Pretty reasonable if you ask me. Returned a Christmas gift from his wife because he was concerned GAP stood for gay and proud. Almost sold his Jeep when being joking told it was renamed to cover up GP, standing for gay pride. Same person thought being called homophobic was synonymous being called a closeted homosexual. I suppose when so many anti-gay legislators end up caught in scandals this isn't a huge stretch. Yeah, he's definitely gay. My now very ex-boyfriend said that he would refuse to buy me pads or tampons, even in an emergency situation. He claimed it was something I should have been in preparation for myself. I compared it to me not being willing to bring him toilet paper if he needed it. When we lived together, he approached me in regards to the small piece of toilet paper that had a bit of period blood on it, claiming that he wouldn't want me to fall into the nasty habit of leaving bloody ghosts visible. I took way too long to dump that guy. I had an ex-boyfriend get furious because I left toilet paper in the toilets that had blood on it. He went on and on about how it wasn't cool and was really disrespectful and so on and so on. I eventually told him that it was from a blood nose I'd had earlier. His anger absolutely evaporated and he said that that was fine. My anger absolutely skyrocketed at this point, of course. A guy I knew in college kept bashing gay people and going on about what a real man he was. I told him when people try to hard like him, I just assume they're insecure with their masculinity and gay. He immediately did a 180-degree turn and went, "I'm very secure with my masculinity. In fact, I like flirting with guys and making them uncomfortable just because I'm so secure with being straight. If someone offered me a role in a gay porno, I'd even take it if there's enough zero S in that check. I'm really secure." He came out as gay a few years ago. A guy at my work once beat up a disabled person because he thought he was hitting on his girlfriend. He wasn't. He had Down syndrome and she would hang out with him because no one else would. Whoa, that is unbelievably low. Not beating on disabled people is a pretty basic concept that you're even made aware of in school. Many years ago, I worked with a very sweet woman at McDonald's named Nadia. She got promoted to shift supervisor, but about halfway through the training, her husband realized she'd be making more money than he was, and he demanded she refuse the promotion. She did. I will never forget the heartbreak in her eyes when she turned in her new uniform with the cute little ascot and took back the old scrubs. Kick a dog. I don't know the details, but he said the dog did something that meant you're B in dog language, so he had to show the dog he ain't no B. God, I freaking hated that guy. For your information, the dog got a better home not long after that cause the douchebag wasn't supposed to have a dog at his house. A coworker brought his 5-year-old son into work last week. I said hi, then gave him markers and paper and let him draw in my office. Today my coworker tells me that his son wants to come back to draw with me again. My coworker continues and says that I need to play with his son, not give him paper to draw. I ask why, and my coworker answers that he doesn't want his kid to draw because it'll make him gay and unmanly. He needs him to run around rambunctiously so he won't be impacted by the womanly art of drawing. My mouth was on the floor. I knew my coworker was homophobic and worked hard to defend his masculinity, but this was too much. That poor kid. Draw between the male patrons in the bar I worked at, dramatically flinging the straw I was required to put in their drinks back at me with a loudly declared I am not AFT. I don't need a straw, and my stepdad refusing to carry a shopping bag from a tech-based store because it had drawstrings and, to quote him, "I'm not a poof, so could you carry this please? LOL. Nothing says manly like asking someone to hold your shopping. I'm 5 and my ex-husband is like 5 feet 7 inches. He wouldn't let me wear heels when we went out together because it looked weird having a woman near his height at his side. My first night working in a sleazy hotel, these giant guys came to party and they invited my trainer and I to join. We were 19. Why not? We go up there to find 3 dudes who were so obviously loaded up on steroids, proving who was the toughest by putting their hands on the electric stove burner before taking shots. It sounds like they were trying to prove who had the lowest IQ. My husband drives a red Fiat. We call it the chili pepper. When I ride with him, I'm always shocked by how many guys in huge trucks feel the need to aggressively rev their engine at him. It's the worst part about driving a nice car. So many people want to interact with you because of the car. Half of them in a nice way, and half of them in a not so nice way. Engines revving, dirty looks, cut-offs, attempts to race, etc. Things get worse the smaller and older the car is. A little red Fiat just gets dudes' blood boiling. Some guy decided to try to pick up a car after his girlfriend joked that he was weak. I was there, and all I saw was the guy looking offended to what she had said, then bent down and gripped the car by the side. He ended up crumbling onto the road sobbing that he didn't manage the impossible. Funniest thing I've seen all week. I once worked for a guy who was several inches below average height. This is of course not anything to be bothered about, but it absolutely bothered him. Also, for context, this guy was a real jerk. We used to joke that he had all the classic signs of compensation. He had a tall truck, was into martial arts, and spoke way too much about his sexcapades with his wife. One day he had us over to his house and introduced me to his, and I am dead serious, miniature dachshund. He says to me, "You know, for a little dog, he is pretty well hung." Message received, boss. Bartender here. Dudes having to drink out of lowball glasses. I don't know what it is, but there's a large subset of the population that thinks drinking anything in a stemmed or tall glass isn't manly. Bro, drinking your vodka soda in a rocks glass doesn't make you like you're in Mad Men. Benefit of the doubt here. Depending on how much I drink, I may refuse a lowball glass because I'm worried I'll smash it to pieces. I'm not graceful when I'm sober, so inebriated me is worse. After a few drinks, stemmed glasses feel fragile and I question my ability to handle them. The office I work in takes about 6 hours to warm up, so winter mornings are ridiculously chilly. I have a hot water bottle that I fill up and have on my lap or back to warm me. Without fail, male colleague whines about how unfair it is that he can't use one because they are for girls. I had a colleague tell me that umbrellas were for girls. For a long time my cousin refused to wear any item of clothing that was not white, black, or brown. One time he came to pick me up in his car and he was wearing a yellow polo shirt, and he was almost shaking nervously, and looked at me and said, "What? You're not gonna make fun of me?" This is kinda sad. When one of his female friends suggested that his personal beliefs showed he was insecure about his masculinity, he said he'd prove he was manly by physically fighting her. Nothing shows you're manly like wanting to fight someone who's shorter and lighter than you. Well, it won't be very impressive unless you win, so really he was just being logical, picking a fight he knew he could win. This is why I only attempt to fight small children. My friend's brother-in-law and ex-boyfriend are both Latino. They both have the Latino machismo thing going on, particularly in regard to spicy food. She said she has seen them both so overspice their food with chili to the point that they were sweating and nearly crying. While both of them claimed to have liked it that way, they would only do that when they were around each other, though they would eat hot food otherwise, just not as hot. So basically just ruin their food and burn their mouths for the sake of being able to say who likes their food hotter, because eating hotter food apparently equals more manly. Stick his hand in a deep fryer. He didn't like that they hired me, a female, to be a line cook. He didn't last long after that. WTF, I loved having women online when I was a cook. Didn't happen much, but they were always laid back and almost always hard workers, so I never had any complaints. Good god man, sticking your hand in the deep dryer. I know a guy who lost his arm doing that accidentally. The father in a family I grew with as neighbors was very much so a sort of traditional masculine guy, mechanic, family patriarch, all that. Turns out he had naturally dry skin, and keeping his feet cramped up in work boots all day led to him having some nasty skin cracks on his feet. After one cut got infected, he went to the doctor, who told him he really needed to exfoliate and moisturize his skin. Moisturizer is for women. Ignored the doctor. A couple years and probably a handful of infections later, he refused to go back to the doctor and insisted it would get better on his own, until the infection got so bad they had to amputate his big toe on his right foot, all because he didn't want to moisturize. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.